doubt in the integrity or data manipulation and things like that, then IEC is going to come for judges. So it is very important. It's clearly mentioned in the new guidelines in the ICMR that ethics is for the protection and facilitation of the research as well as the researcher.
Thank you, sir. It's my immense pleasure as well as privilege to invite an inspiration and trailblazer in our field, Professor K.K. Sharma, sir. And he's also the president of ISR PTCon, and currently he's the convener of CME at National Academy of Medical Sciences. So if you can please join the stage.
Thank you very much for making me to stand before you for academic interaction. I think many things have already been said which I am going to say in this, but it is only the garb of the ICS DCP guideline, that is International Conference on Harmonization on Good Clinical Practices. And everyone knows so the good clinical practice guidelines, you see clinical practice, all doctors they are doing clinical practice. But in clinical practice, it is the patient who is approaching you to treat. So it is already imbibed or intrinsic that patient is giving consent being treated by you. There is no need to take a fresh consent because they understood. But when you are inviting a patient to participate in the research, then it is your onus, your responsibility to take the consent, whether he or she is ready to participate. And as Dr. Dhandiya said, that you can do research in practice also, but you have to differentiate at that time practice and research. And research is research and not the practice. So international ethical and scientific quality standards are the good clinical practice can be defined as an international ethical and scientific quality standards for designing, conducting and reporting clinical trials that involve participation of the human subjects. It provides public assurance that rights, safety and well-being have been taken care and protected, consistent with the declaration of the Helsinki, and that the clinical data are credible. So first, the protection of the patient comes from the Hippocratic Oath, that is the oldest. Then came the Nuremberg Code, and after that came the Helsinki Declaration. So Helsinki Declaration is the one which is much more important and encodes everything which have been covered earlier. Historical perspectives, I think Dr. Dhandiya has given some glimpses of that. Nazi medical experiments, I am just elaborating that. Prisoners were forced to become subjects in very dangerous studies against their will. Nearly all subjects endured incredible suffering, mutilation, incredible pain. The experiments often were deliberately designed to terminate in a fatal outcome. Most of the time it is death or permanent injury. For example, freezing experiments, prisoners were immersed tanks of ice cold water for hours at a time of a shivering to death to discover how long the German pilots were down by the enemy survived. You see, when the Second World War was going on, the planes were bombarding the UK, England at that time. So, some planes were downed by the enemy fire, that is by Britishers, Nazi planes were downed. And pilots used to come out through parachute. And sometimes they will be landing on the land or maybe inside the sea. And English Channel was very cold at that time. So, Germans wanted to know how much time a person will take to die in the freezing water. So they can send the rescue planes. If time is already lapsed, that he is dead, so there is no need to send the rescue plane. So they wanted to know that how much time it will take. And for doing this, they conducted these experiments. They immersed the person in the ice tank and doctors were recording through the stopwatch how much time it takes to die and what is the process of death. So all recordings were conducted and these were the very torturous, traumatic experiments conducted by the Nazi doctors. And many other atrocities were conducted. That what kind of the healing of the injuries due to bomb injury, chemical injuries, other kind of the injuries, not only the surface of the body, but also inside the lungs, inside the intestine, and inside the various other organs. So all those experiments were conducted in a human way. And because of that, the Nuremberg trials were conducted after the World War was over, Second World War was over. And this is the scene where the trials are going on and juries, judges, they are sitting. So the development of the good research practice guidelines, which were not legally binding, began following the Nuremberg trials, with the Nuremberg Code being published in 1949, as Dr. Daria told, it contained 10 main principles. The basic principles of the code were designed to protect the well-being, that is physical, mental, personal rights, integrity of the research subject, asserting the individual's fundamental right to choose whether to become involved in the research or not. So this was the first time it is stated that you cannot conduct any experiment until unless the voluntary consent has been obtained for conducting the research. Even asking your name, asking the name or size of the feet or foot or color of the teeth, you cannot do until unless you take the permission from the subject. So, Declaration of the Helsinki in 1964, they became the cornerstone of the human clinical research or clinical trials. So, this was the photograph taken at that time, the Declaration of the Helsinki was there. So, the World Medical Association, as Dr. Dandria told, established recommendation for guiding medical doctors in biomedical research involving human subjects. The declaration governed the international research ethics and defined the rules for research combined with clinical care and non-therapeutic research. So this is the time when therapeutic and non-therapeutic research was separated. Main focus was on protecting the patient's interest and well-being. Placed entire responsibility of safeguarding the patient's health, privacy and dignity on the physician who is conducting the research. And issues which were addressed in the Declaration of the Helsinki were research with humans should be based on the results from laboratory and animal experiments. You cannot do research according to your desire or conjectures. The use of the scientific principle in the design of a study should be there, putting the well-being of the study subject before the science and society. You cannot choose the martyrs in the society that they should be sacrificed for the sake of science. Science is secondary, human life is primary. Research protocols should be reviewed by an independent committee prior to initiation. So this is the first time added in Declaration of Helsinki. Before that, the voluntariness or consent component was not there. Research should be conducted by medically, scientifically qualified individuals. Risk should not exceed the benefit. The Declaration was revised in 1975, 83, 89, 96, 2000, 2008 and 2014. Just recently, 2014 in Fortaleza, Brazil. And 2008 was the first time they said that clinical trials should be registered. Should be registered in a central registry. And then 2013, it is about the publication. After registration, it should be published because you are using the resources of the country, both in terms of the humans as well as the money. So these trial results should be published, even if they are negative. So today there are some journals who publish or which publish the negative results. They are not the journal of the negative results. Because if so, research will not be repeated by somebody else. So, Belmont report, already mentioned by Dr. Negia, then Code of Federal Regulation, Good Clinical Practice, ICF guidelines, then there are guidelines in the US, then ICMR guidelines which have been recently revised. Then unethical practices, Tuskegee estimates already have been mentioned. This is the doctor who is taking the blood, and they wanted to know that how syphilis disease exceeds from primary to secondary, secondary to tertiary, and death. Penicillin was discovered but deliberately not given to the patient, and Bill Clinton has to put the public apology for that. So ultimately, the good clinical practices says that ethics, rights of the subject should be there, safety and efficacy. So ethics, safety and efficacy, these three are the things which should be utilized during the clinical trials. And this has come from the proverb, that is, life must be lived forwards but can only be understood backwards. So good clinical practice guidelines are the guidelines which is the fundamental tenet of the GCP and based on the Hippocratic Oath. And there are three principles, main three principles. Principles of non-maleficence, that is beneficence, that you never harm the patient, and at best you can do, if you are not doing any benefit, you should not harm. Then principle of autonomy, that is respect to the person, rights, dignity. And principle of justice, that you must do justice. Such subjects should be equally distributed. It should not differentiate between the rich and the poor, vulnerable or non-vulnerable. So these are the cornerstones. But now they have made four, because वो लगता है कि 3 पैर वाली कुर्सी गिर जाएगी, तो उन्होंने non-maleficence अलग कर दिया, beneficence अलग कर दिया, justice अलग कर दिया, autonomy अलग कर दिया. So 4. But actually maleficence, non-maleficence and beneficence means same thing. Now other principles of bioethics are principles of essentiality. Research is essential. When you prove that it is essential and cannot be found by any other way, then human subjects can be used. Then voluntariness, informed consent and community agreement. For other types of research, community agreement, when you cannot get, like children, you want to know that what is the age of monarchy in the school, the 7 years, 10 years, 12 years. So you have not only take permission from the girl child, but also the parents, as well as the Gram Pradhan or headmaster of the school. So community should be involved. So if anything goes wrong, all these four will come to your rescue. Then principles of non-escalation, principle of privacy and confidentiality, principle of precaution and risk minimization, and principle of the professional competence on the part of the physician or surgeon who is undertaking the research. Principle of accountability and transparency. Principles of maximization of the public interest and distributive justice. Then institutional arrangement, that you should take confidence not only the head of the institution but other, including the ethics committee. Then principle of public domain, that all data will be in the public domain, so anybody can take advantage of that. Means publication. Principle of totality and responsibility, and principle of compliance of all these things. And how these are going to be assured is through the ethics committee, informed consent, safety of the vulnerable groups, compensation for the participation, and guarantee of the new proven treatment. Like in case a person or a group of persons are taking participation in the clinical trial with a new drug, and a new drug proved to be safer, then a guarantee has to be given by the sponsor that it will be available free to the volunteers who have participated in the clinical research and have allowed this product to be found to be useful. Then ICF GCP guidelines. ICF is International Conference on Harmonization. Why to harmonize? Harmonization means a research conducted in England may be acceptable in India. The research conducted in India may be acceptable to Japanese. Japanese research may be acceptable to Koreans, maybe not in North Korea but South Korea and China. So clinical trials should be conducted in accordance with the ethical principles that have their origin in the Declaration of Helsinki and that are considered in the GCP and regulatory requirement of that country. Before the trial is initiated, foreseeable risk and convenience to be weighed against the anticipated benefit. So this is the 12 principles of the GCP. These are the two. Third is rights and safety or well-being of the trial subject is protected. The available non-clinical and clinical information is there to prove that investigative substance is safe and data is already adequate. Clinical trial should be scientifically sound and described in a clear, detailed protocol. A trial should be conducted in compliance with the protocol that has received prior IRB or IEC approval. Then medical care given to the medical people who are participating, as well as medical decision made on behalf of the subject should always be the responsibility of the qualified person who is conducting the clinical trial or research. Each individual involved in conducting a trial should be qualified by education, training and experience. Three things: by education, by training and by experience to perform the respective trials. Like a trial in gastroenterology cannot be undertaken by a cardiologist, vice versa. So, person should be not only qualified but also trained and experienced in doing that. Then freely given informed consent should be the cornerstone. The confidentiality of the record that has to be maintained. The clinical trial information should be recorded, handled and stored for accurate reporting, information verification and auditing, etc. Then investigation products should be manufactured, handled and stored in accordance with the good manufacturing practices. Systems with procedures that assure quality of every aspect of the trial should be implemented. That is, SOPs for all kind of the act should be there. It should be the inherent integral part of the protocol. Then components of the ICH GPC guidelines are prerequisite for the study, responsibility of the all stakeholders including sponsor, investigator, IEC and the institution. Then record keeping and data handling, quality assurance, role of the biostatistician, clinical trial demanding special concerns. Then investigation pharmaceutical product need to know physical, chemical, natural nature and the way they are made and stored. Preclinical supporting data should be adequate and convincing to conduct the trial. Then prerequisite for the study is the protocol, well designed, structured and complete, has all relevant components, for example, general information, objective, justification, ethical consideration, study design, inclusion and exclusion criteria, withdrawal of the subject, efficacy, safety, parameters, quality control, quality assurance, finances, insurances, compensation, indemnity bond, publication policy and all evaluation policies. Now, responsibility of the clinical trial holders like stakeholders are sponsors, monitors, investigators. So, stakeholders are there only know that there is ethics committee, investigator, sponsor, clinical trial protocol amendments, investigator brochure, essential documents. Then investigator responsibility, I think Dr. Vijay, you have already covered many points. Then investigator is what it should do. Qualification, then responsibilities. So I am not going into the detail of that. Informed consent process, I think the detail Dr. Daiwat has already discussed. Components. Then issues of ethics committee. Dr. Dhareja is already with the quorum, components, chairperson, secretary, everything they have written. Only thing that it should be independent because institutional ethics committee means it is presenting that institution. But there are some situations where some drug company or CROs they want to take. So they have to go to the institution to take the permission, and for them IEC acts as an independent research committee as you were doing for some CRO and the Sharjah University. So basic responsibility of the ethics committee, I think it's already been covered. Sponsor. I will discuss it as individual. Sponsor is an individual or a company or institution or organization which takes responsibility for a clinical trial. In case of the investigator initiated trial, investigator is the sponsor, and they are responsible for initiation, management and financing. So sponsors' responsibility are clinical trial, protocol design, communications, information document, study management design, regulatory submission, investigator site selection. In case of the investigator trial, it has to be registered with the CTRI, as well as it should be taking permission from the IEC. Then termination, study report, audit, quality assurance, then adverse drug reaction monitoring and reporting, clinical trial material supply is the sponsor's responsibility, selection of the investigator institution, contract signing, taking care of the compensation, insurances, trial monitoring. Then their responsibility also DSMB, Data Safety Management Committee or Independent Data Safety Committee. So this is an independent committee which take care of not only the looking after that when trial should be terminated, stopped prematurely, or analyze the serious adverse reports in order to pinpoint whether it is drug related or not related. If it is investigator product related, then what should be the compensation depending on different categories. And you have already told about the formula and the way it is calculated, and not only calculated, how it is informed and what are the different timelines for payment and decision making, both at the level of the IEC, investigator, as well as at the regulatory body. Monitors trial, record keeping, data handling, study documents, this is the International Conference on Harmonization of Technical Requirements for Registration of Pharmaceutical for Human Use. So this is the ICH GCP guideline. It is a very big document, first time published in 1996 and is modified and accepted by all. Because most of the research, you see, do you know what is the most sellable drug today in the market? The drugs which are sold with more than $1 billion per year is known as the blockbuster drug. You know blockbuster films? That films, Shah Rukh Khan film, Salman Khan film, if they earn 100 crore in first week, it is known as the blockbuster film or picture or whatever you call it. So blockbuster drug is a drug which is sold in more than $1 billion per year all over the world. And you know, adalimumab is the drug today which is sold about $16 to $20 billion a year today. This is the anti-inflammatory drug, TNF-alpha antagonist. Because TNF-alpha has got receptors, both soluble as well as surface, cell surface receptors. So some drugs are there which inhibit the release of the TNF-alpha, some they stop binding, and some they work by taking the post-translation changes occurring after TNF-alpha is binding to the receptor. So adalimumab is a drug which is the highest selling. At one time it was atorvastatin, 3 or 4 years back, and before that it was the famotidine and cimetidine. These were the drugs. So blockbuster drugs are decided by 3 countries: USA, most which, Japan, and Europe. So ICH GCP guidelines were made to harmonize the regulatory authorities in these 3 different regional areas in order to decrease the expenditure of the clinical trials. So the clinical trial is done according to the ICH GCP guideline in Japan. It is acceptable to the USA without any clinical trial. Like in India, Schedule Y, they say that if any drug which is approved in any other country, if it is to be marketed in India, the clinical trial in a small population should be conducted in the country. But ICH GCP, they accept in toto whether this trial is conducted in Japan or USA or in Europe, because they are bound by the ICH GCP guideline agreement. So this is just to reduce the expenditure on the or repetition of the same research in different places. Now ICH GCP component, main components are glossary, the principle of ICH GCP, institutional review board, investigator sponsor, clinical trial protocol, amendments, investigator brochure, essential documents, conduct of the clinical trial. So same thing which are we have already covered are the components of the ICH GCP. Then other thing which I would like to stress is that it has got 4 or 5 components. Yes. That is Q, E, S. So Q is for quality. Yes. Because I removed these slides to shortcut. So ICH topics are divided into Q, S, E, E6 and M. Q, S, E, M. This is the name given. Q for quality. There are Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 like that. So 10 are there. So Q1 to 9 also includes M3, deals with the in vitro and vivo preclinical testing. Efficacy is E, E1 to E16. Then comes the multidisciplinary, M, 1 to 5. And topics are Q1, Q2, Q3 like that. So this is classified as Q, S, safety, E, efficacy, and M, multidisciplinary. And under which all protocols are prepared according to this Q, S, E, F classification. So if you know Q, S, E, M, you can understand easily and prepare your protocol for in multinational or international trials based taking these basic components. Thank you. My task became easy because the predecessors before me already covered many things which I have not to stress much. Thank you very much, all predecessors, for that nice discussions.
I now invite Dr. Rakesh Mittal, Assistant Professor, PGIS Roundup, and his topic is Recent Amendments in Schedule Y.